G'day, Mike from Aussie Mike's Bees. Once again catching a swarm, just 10 minutes drive from home this time, so pretty good. I'm going to be using the pop-up laundry basket for this one. It's a swarm up here in the tree, so I'm going to climb the ladder. It's about 2.5 meters up, I suppose, and a little bit of trimming, pop this around. Should be an easy grab. Let's see how it goes. The first thing I'm going to do is just trim all these little twigs and so on, so I can get the basket up around them. So I just want to be really gentle. I'm seeing some scout bees doing waggle dances. It's a beautiful day today. Summer at last. The owners of this place say usually they get swarms every year, and but not usually this close to the house. Very calm. So what I'm hoping I'll be able to do here is slip the basket up around them, maybe even snip the piece of branch they're hanging from and drop that into the basket with them. Because I've found that they do like to cling to the branches that way. Just clearing out these little twigs from underneath as well, so I can get a clean way in. So the thing with using these laundry baskets is if you get tangled up on the way in, you make it a bit more difficult to work with. So the more you can clear out before you go up, the easier it is. Now, I've got a branch coming in the side down near the bottom of these ones, so that complicates it a little bit. Doesn't help that I'm up a ladder doing this. So those lower branches is what's going to cause me the most grief, because I can't get right up around them until I cut those ones, and as soon as I cut those, it's going to stir them up a bit. So I'm just flipping some of the top around over the rim so it doesn't drop down and into the basket. And then hopefully after I cut the bottom branches, I can slip up around them a bit easier. They'll drop, the bottom ones will drop. They're going to stir up a bit then, so I'm going to have to be fairly quick after that. So, just sizing up what I've got here. That was the first clump. It has stirred them up, as I said. And now I've got them all in there. Climb down the ladder to close up. So I've just popped them on the ground here. I've slipped up that and I've put the nozzle over the hole. There's a few on the outside here. That's to be expected. And I'll just let them sit there for a bit. There's a little group of them clustering up the top. So the queen's smell is still up there. So what I'm going to do is leave the basket here for a bit. So here you can see I've got the basket closed off. You've got some bees on the outside, and on the inside, this is where I like to cut off a bit of the branch in with them, because most of them are clustered around that. Without that, what I find is that they will climb up to the top, and that weighs the spring down. And it can still happen. Some are climbing up, some are flying up. So what I do is just position it on its side like so. The branch will stay in there at the bottom. Most of them will cluster around that bottom section where the branch is, and you've got some flyers up around the top. So I'll just leave them to cluster around that for a moment until they settle on the outside. Then I'll pick the whole lot up. I'll just actually move her into the shade because it is a very warm day. So I'll just bring this over to the side, a bit out of the sun. Just looking up to the top, there was a little cluster forming. That's dispersed now because obviously the queen's not there. So most of the activity is up around this end, where this is the bottom, and the activity from the outside is mostly around the outside. The queen will be inside there, I'm pretty sure of that, just by the fact that the small cluster that was in the tree isn't up there now. So they're all flying. I'll just leave them to settle there, and once they've attached to the outside a bit, I'll take it through to the car and be on my way. There's still a tiny bit of activity up where they were hanging in the tree. Just a few flyers going back. These could well be scouts that are returning, and they say, where's everyone gone? Won't take them long to settle down to where they are down here. You can see in there that lovely cluster. Notice how they do climb a little. As I was saying, without that branch in there, they would cluster right up to the very top. And even with it lying on its side there, it can start to roll over. Just see how on the outside you've got externally they're drawn to the queen, of course, and the smell of the other sisters. They'd love to get inside if they could, but I'm not going to open it up. Down the entrance where I've closed it up, very little, if any, activity at all down this end. So this is a very easy way to transport them. And I'll just put it in the back of the car and drive home and put them in a box. There we go. Now it's time just to pop them in the car. I'll leave them in this orientation because that's the way they've settled. I've got some flies hanging around, sort of flying, they want to get out. But most of them are quiet in the cluster. So I'll just pop them in the car, positioned so it can't roll. So I've got tools and so on that I'm just wedging. So as I go around corners and so on, this can't roll into a, like, I don't want them to roll because that'll disturb them. This leaves them in that orientation. When I drive with the windows open, so there's plenty of ventilation. That's the great thing about these netting. the netting of these laundry baskets is that they stay well ventilated. There's no overheating. Okay, so I'm going to hit the road now and get them settled back at the other end. All right, I've got them back home. I've got a box set up with them with some foundation as well as some drawn comb. Since getting them in the car at the other end, there's a few of them more active. They're a bit keen to get out, and that's what I'm going to do now. As I've shown before, bulk of them are still on the branch that is sitting in the other end. So I'm going to loosen off this, as I've done before, and I'm going to open this up wide as I can. I'll get a few of them already starting to come out, and I'll just work it around so that the rim is open. And I can even draw that now and tighten it so it doesn't flop. One of the tricks you learn. And now I'm going to very slowly and gently aim it in towards the frames, compressing it all, and just lower these guys onto the frames. Now the branch has now fallen under its own weight onto the top of the frames, and there's clusters hanging on the underside of the top. So I can shake them off. Now, the bees, some of the bees are going to want to climb up and fly, so I'm going to weigh that down. But I'm just going to weigh it down with a little pot. That'll keep it compressed like that, allowing them to then draw down into the frame. So I'm just going to leave them like that for a good period of time to settle into the box by themselves. Okay, it's a few hours later. I've been off to work. I've just come back. It's been a warm day today. It's about 32, 33 degrees Celsius. Got a few bees hanging out the front, bearding, cooling down. So I've just got back to this little swarm. There's still a bunch of bees caught inside. So I'm going to take this weight off now and I'll free them up, because the bulk of the bees have moved down, and I can see straight away that the vast majority of them are inside the box, and well, they're just calmly there. So I'm going to shake off the twigs that we don't need in the box anymore. We never needed them in the box, but and then I'll put the lid on. Now I'll just pop that up so that they fly upwards and out. That should keep them happy. I'll just get these few little twigs out of the way, and then I'm just going to close them up and leave them be. Pop the lid on. I'm having a look out the front. Lots of activity. I reckon we're done. I've got two dead bees in the bottom. I'll just have a quick look here. I've got a little cluster up on the side there, but way down the bottom there's a couple of bees. Now that's a pretty good success rate with getting them here in one piece. Now I'm just going to check this little cluster and make sure the queen's not amongst them. But I'm pretty sure she's not, because the rest of the bees, yeah, she's not there. That's just a little cluster that got a bit trapped in there and couldn't find their way out. So I'm just going to give them a quick shake onto the roof. And they're now flying out. And they can find their way in the box and job's done. So I reckon that's another successful swarm. All good. Until the next time, this is Mike from Aussie Mike's Bees, where beekeeping is an obsession.